The most important interaction between humans is undeniably communication. With over 7 billion people in the world today, face-to-face communication is not always possible. So, we present to you RChat, a messaging application for you and all the people you need to communicate with. RChat is not identical to other messaging applications. Often, users will find themselves correcting typos or deleting messages when there is a much simpler solution: editing those messages. Along with editable messages, being able to import old conversations and export conversations, RChat provides many more different functionalities. So, are you ready to chat with us? Let's go.
Welcome to Our Chat. Today we will talk about demo, functionality, backend project structure, testing, and FAQ. Let's start with the demo presented by Sam.
Hello there, and welcome to the demo for Group 26's Project 5. We have created a messenger app, and when you first open the app, you're greeted with this screen that says Welcome to Messenger and prompts you to enter your username and password. For this demo, my username will be demo username, and my password will be demo password. Hit create account, and it'll be successful. And then to log in, I will enter my demo username and my demo password. I'm doing this so that I can communicate between two users in a conversation. And demo password 2. Log in. And now I have two chat pages. If I want to create a conversation, I can press this button in the middle and it will create a new conversation. It will assign it a random 7-digit conversation ID. And then if I want to join the conversation, I will press join a conversation and enter said ID. So for this one it is 916-8007. If I hit join, then it will add me to the conversation. And for both users to send messages, I will enter my text into this box and it will say hello there. Hit send, and then both users will see the username of the sender followed by the timestamp and then the message. Hi, how are you? Hit send, and then it will be received by both users. So if I want to edit a message, I have to make sure that it is my message that I sent. I copy and paste the entire line and then hit edit, and then it will ask me to make any edits to my message. I want to say hello there. Hello there, user 2. Hit OK, and then it will change the entire message. And if I say, actually, I want to delete this entire message, I can highlight the entire line, copy it, paste it into the text field, hit delete, and yes to delete the message. Messages will save if you close and reopen the program. So if I use demo username and demo password, I can log in and the conversation will still be there. So I can open it and I still see the message, hi, how are you, from demo user 2. If I want to delete this conversation from my list of conversations, I can hit delete and enter the conversation ID and delete it, and then I will not have this conversation anymore.
That was the beginning of the demo. Now, let's move on to some other application functionality.
Hello, my name is Grant, and I'll be talking about the changing username and changing password functions of our program. So let's run our program. Right now, in our user.csv file, which stores all the usernames, passwords, and user IDs of all the users, my username is Grant, my password is Starry Night, and my user ID is 5231. And if I log in here, you'll see that it works, right? Okay, so what if I want to change my username? Say someone's trying to track me down and I want a more secure username to throw them off. All right, well, then I hit the change username button, pulls up this window here. Then you insert your old username here and then your new username in the bottom box here. All right, that should throw them off. Okay, then it successfully changed my username. And if I were to restart the program, you'll see that the user.csv file was updated now. If I want to change my password, it's a very similar process. I put my username here. I put my old password here for security reasons. And I put my new password here, something more secure. Okay. And if I were to restart the program, you'll see that my password has now been changed to 1234. And if I were to log in, it works. Hello, my name is Grant, and I will be talking about the import and export functions of our messaging app. So first, I'm going to log in. Okay, so right now we have one chat that is in the server. That is this 9109110 chat. Has a few messages in it. And I want to first show you how to import a function, or import an old conversation. So this conversation 2888710 is not present in the server side, right? So if I want to import this, I'll hit the import button, and then it'll prompt me for the conversation name, the ID. When I enter that, it'll tell me, yes, successfully imported. Okay, and if I want to export, works the same way. Now I'm going to export this file right here. Hit the button for export, then give it the name. Now successfully exported to the client side over here. Now, what happens if I make changes to, say, this file here? Now changes. And I want to re-import an old conversation that has the same conversation ID. Because now, the conversation that currently exists is different from the conversation that I exported a little while ago. So if I try to import it, it'll warn me saying that, hey, this conversation already exists, and if you want to import your old conversation, it's going to overwrite it. Would you like to continue? You can say no, and it just brings you back to this screen. If you say yes, then what will happen is that it'll just revert it back to what you imported. Notice how the message that I sent for changes is now gone because the one I exported didn't have that.
Now that we've seen the functionality of the project, let's see how it works. Everything starts when the server is turned on. The first thing the server does is look for the conversation file. If it's not found, the server begins to write this file. If it is found, it attempts to build everything. This file contains conversation IDs that correspond to conversation files. These 3 IDs correspond to 3 conversations that already exist. The server then builds the conversations according to these files. After the server has done building, we can finally launch the client. For the client to communicate with the server, we must create something called a socket in order to allow for client-server communication. Every time a new client is created, a new socket is created in order to have distinguished communication with the server. This allows us to implement concurrent modifications to the server without having any issues. This whole thing uses a multi-thread communication implementation in order to work. Let's move on to the client login page. The client enters a username and a password, which is then sent to the server for verification. The server then checks in the user CSV file in order to check if the username and password have a match. It looks like we found a match in the file. Because of this, a success message is created and sent back to the server, which is then sent to the client, which receives a success. Now we get to the fun part, how the client and server are able to exchange messages with each other and how the other clients receive these messages. First, the client creates a message. which is then sent to the server. The server then receives this message and decides what to do to handle this message. The first thing that the server does is write the message to a conversation CSV file, which is labeled with the conversation ID. In this file, the users are listed, and then the messages that the users have sent are listed underneath. Once the server writes the message to the CSV file and saves it, it then sends the message to the other clients in the conversation. This message shows up in the text area for the other clients so that they can converse. Now that we know how the project works, let's move on to testing.
When testing the functionality of our chat, the most important test was running multiple clients and sending messages that updated in lifetime between different users. On top of this, further testing was done by manually making sure that the classes worked the way that they were intended, and each group member can run multiple clients, accounts, conversation, and messages on their machine to test the project. When testing the GUI, all of the testing was done manually, and each group member tested the functionality of all the buttons in the GUI application interface. Each group member also ran multiple clients and had conversations between the clients to ensure that all the functionality was working as intended. For automated testing, the program used the run local test class, which has over 4,000 lines of code, and checked all the classes, fields, constructor, and methods. All test cases use try-catch methods to verify that everything is working properly. Within the automated testing, the run local test class used the JUnit package to test the type of each class and the type of each method. This ensured that the classes are public when necessary, that variables are final when necessary, and so on and so forth. Once the testing is complete, the errors in the code will show up in the console log, if there are any. If not, the test class will print out a success message. For example, in this user's constructor, it needs to contain username, password, and user ID. This helps to confirm which user is operating, and if it does not contain this content, the test case will throw error off. Ensure that this user declares a constructor that is public and has 3 parameter types.
Finally, let's explore some frequently asked questions.
In this section, I'll be answering a few potential FAQs. First, how well does the code handle invalid inputs and errors? The code handles all possible invalid inputs and errors with exception handling. Through manual and automated testing, the application is unable to crash with any given input or error because all exceptions are handled and error messages are printed to the client GUI rather than having empty, unhandled exceptions on the server side. The way to stop the client from running is to use the close button in the upper right-hand corner of the GUI. Second, what was the team's strategy for prioritizing tasks? The team made sure to work on the programming aspect of the project first, but was sure to allow for adequate planning and framework-related decisions prior to the start of coding implementations. This allowed for the team to all be on the same page regarding the way the application would work, and allowed all team members to debug any problems in the application without miscommunication. If any errors appeared in the code, the team prioritized fixing the errors to working on new parts of the application and was sure to discuss before trying to solve the problem as to prevent any merge conflicts in the code. Multiple people would be assigned to solve an error as to ensure that no unforeseen mistakes would remain in the final rendition of the project and to make the workflow of the project more concise. Finally, how does the application provide a good user experience? The GUI was created to be self-explanatory and provide users information when a button or aspect of the GUI is not clear in of itself. The GUI also explains the workings of the application in a concise but also detailed manner so that the user does not have any trouble understanding the workings of the application. Additionally, the application will return concise errors to the user when the user enters any type of invalid input or clicks on anything in an incorrect manner.